Prosperity is not simply what you earn, it's who you become. And today's guest has built a life and a legacy around helping women rise into their fullest, healthiest, and most powerful selves. Are you guys ready to get into this? Let's go.
Here we go. Nicole Johnson. Nicole Johnson. Nicole Johnson. Let's go.
And welcome to another episode of Prosperity Conversations. I am your host, the Nicole Johnson, and today we're exploring prosperity from a global, holistic, and deeply intentional perspective. Oh, y'all know I just love that. Today I am honored to sit with Geeta Sidhu Robb, a transformational coach. Y'all, that's my word right there. We are making transformations here. She's a transformational coach, an activist, and an award-winning entrepreneur whose work has impacted women leaders around the world. We worldwide, y'all. Y'all ready? Her journey began with a very, very personal fight to heal her son's life-threatening allergies. Now, listen, as a mom, right there, I was so excited about talking to her about this journey of hers, a battle that involved into Nosh detox. I'm gonna need to detox myself. I'm gonna need to detox myself. It's a wellness company trusted by CEOs like me, celebrities, and global change makers like you. I am super excited to have her here today because her advocacy expanded far beyond wellness, leading her into political organizing, national activism, and a large scale women's empowerment work. Yes, and today through W Court, Geeta helps high performing women reclaim their clarity, confidence, health, and their power. Ladies and gentlemen, you all clap it up as Geeta comes to the stage. Hello, hello, hello. How are you, dear? How
I'm
you
so thrilled.
doing?
Thank you for having me.
Good, good. Absolutely glad to have you here with us. These conversations are meant to bring people in alignment with what the Wealthy Women Lifestyle does. I'm super excited to have you here today. So I'm just going to go right into how we normally start and ask you, what does prosperity mean to you?
I think prosperity means abundance for me because it's kind of like a 360-degree approach in that I grew up very wealthy, and then I became very poor when I walked out of my marriage, and we were homeless and living on 14 pounds a day. And then I built up wealth and success again. And it has been a very mindful approach to prosperity. So it has been a combination, for me, prosperity is a combination of success plus money, plus joy, plus relationships. And that's what I think being prosperous really is.
I love that. I love that. And so I want to go back to what you said because we had the beauty of being the host is you get to talk to the guests before they actually come on in our virtual green room. And so we talked a little bit about the storyline of, how you got started, right? And so when I look at your information that you provided, I'm going to stop right here at a mother fighting for her child. Geeta, tell me about that. Take us back to the moment where you realized there was something you needed to do for your son.
Well, it's funny. I always start the story in a different place, but last week I did a TED talk on infant mortality. And I did a TED talk with the Gates Foundation on the first breath, is what it was called, and it'll come out in a few weeks. And the statistics are so bad. And I didn't know this when I was younger, but in the American statistics are worse. But in the United Kingdom, if you are a brown or black child, you are twice as likely to die by your first birthday as a white child. And if you are a black mother, you are twice as likely to die giving birth as you are if you are a white mother. And I knew the statistics weren't good because I have a friend in this arena, but I didn't know they were that bad. And so I did a talk about it. And for me, I didn't know that my color was such a large part of it. But obviously, when you look back, it was. Because you don't turn up in a hospital looking like this. It's 2 a.m. and you've got glasses and you're in a hoodie and your hair and, and my son had he had anaphylaxis. And so he would eat things and his throat would swell up and he would lose the ability to breathe. And the next step is cardiorespiratory arrest and then death. And he'd had it a few times because he was 7, 8 months old and we didn't know what was the problem, what he was allergic to. And I was holding him and they were he was so little and they were trying to put a needle in him and he was fighting them. And I was like, stop, babe, stop, let them just do it. And he went still. And I thought, oh, okay, he's letting them do it. But he had died.
Oh, no.
And he had died in my arms. And I didn't realize this till the woman who was right in front of me, the nurse, her face kind of changed. And they did, I can't remember, is it code blue or code red, something?
Code
That's
blue.
Code blue. And then they took my child, and his heart was so little, they had to use 2 fingers to pump. And they were trying to get me to leave the room, and I wouldn't leave the room because I had this thought that if I left the room, I'd never see him again, And I was 20 something. So they resuscitated him. They took him to intensive care. He was in a coma for about 8 days. And then I got to take him home. But that was I was lucky because the child on the left didn't go home. And then the child 2 down on the right didn't go home, And I think and I remember, so that was life-changing. But the other thing that really changed me, Nicole, was that I had thought until then that being a good girl was important.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be good because that's how I was brought up. I'm an Indian girl from an upper-class Indian background. Just be a good girl. Can you not behave like that? If you don't talk so much, just be a good girl. And I was like, oh. And I was like, I've tried really hard to be a good girl, but my parents didn't come out. When I was in hospital. My son's father didn't come out when I was in hospital. And I was there alone with like university friends. And I remember coming out of there thinking, what on earth was the point of being good? Because it did not help me in any way in this process. So screw being good. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to decide what it is that works for me and my children. And that's all I'm going to stay with. And it did. It changed the course of my life.
Listen, similar story. Not, we were very life-threatening when I went into labor with my son. And let me rephrase. I was in pain. And I went to the emergency room and, it's probably just this and it's probably just that. Ma'am, I don't want no probabilities. Find somebody that can tell me actually what it is. And so they're trying to count his heart rate with the machine. The machine must be broken. Yeah, it is. Hurry up and find another one. Because he was very active. So my stomach he looks like he's having a party in there. And by the time they come in with another one, it's not working. It can't catch his heart rate. So the doctor finally sits down and she's a resident. Young. She sits down and she says, oh my gosh, baby, this is not the place to be saying, oh my gosh, you better start speaking. I need you to speak. My husband is backing up in the corner, not saying a word. So I'm in pain. I'm worried about my kid. The doctor only can say, oh my gosh. The next thing I know, the nurse comes in. She does my legs like this and she's trying to insert a tube. Man, what are you doing? Somebody better start talking to me or find someone who will. And she finally says, we can't catch his heart rate. And when we count it by hand, it's fully accelerated. We have to get him out of here. Why didn't you tell me that 5 minutes ago instead of hollering, oh my gosh? Yeah. So he was in cardiac arrest. They needed to do a C-section. And so put me to sleep and take care of my kid. And I come out, there's a on-call doctor who walks into my room behind my actual doctor. And he says, man, if you had just waited a little bit longer, he wouldn't have made it. My doctor, because she knew me, she immediately turned him around and escorted him out the room. That was the end of him. I never saw him again. So I understand, Geeta, I totally understand being that person now. You know what? You did me wrong one time. You'll never get that chance again. So let me advocate. So I love that you finally decided to walk in your own. What did that do for you? What was the next step? What did you start to advocate for on behalf of your son?
Oh, for my son, it was a battle forever because, he had asthma and it's supposed to be incurable. He had eczema, apparently it's incurable. Anaphylaxis, he has to live with it. And they would just sit there and they would, really, and I was a lawyer. So they were very dismissive of me every time I came. And then they wanted to give him these injections and I knew there was a contraindication, so I wouldn't let them. And they would be like, so when you leave, we'll give that to him. One doctor said that to me. I was like, I don't think I'll leave. So I slept on the floor on the incontinence mats because in those days you didn't leave parents in the house. And the nurses were phenomenal. They helped me and I slept there. I mean, like I did not leave my child alone because I was like, you're never going to get the opportunity to do anything. And I cured his eczema. I cured his asthma. And we really managed and I was like, you can't cure my foot. So it just changed me on every level going through life. So I have always advocated, I've been an advocate for unrepresented, for women, for unspoken. And you then realize it's not just about race. That actually all women, it becomes the system. The system doesn't see any women. The system doesn't see any choices for women. It doesn't see a right, or you don't see or hear women. And and that's basically then became my life's work.
And so what I'm hearing from you is what I'm reading read out of your profile: leadership, activism, all of these things that you just forged ahead on. So how did activism shape your understanding of what I would say purpose and community prosperity?
I think it's because I was the first non-white woman to stand for parliament in this country. And when I did that, I visited places up and down the United Kingdom that were so poor. And, there were 7 people living in one room with water coming down the sides. They're been buying one nappy at a time, because they can't afford more, And I'm looking at all these things. And these things I think all of these things are just life-changing. And I'm like, I'm just harder to ignore than you are. So I'm going to make myself undismissible, unignorable. And I kind of focused on that and I've stayed focused on it. But I came out of politics because it's not effective. Look at what's happening in your country and my country. It's not effective. So I was like, okay, so where's the money and the power? It's in corporates and it's in organization and infrastructure. Great, I'll go there. So it's kind of constantly pivoting to see where you can leave a stamp and leave a mark so that you can change the world a little bit. And it's been a highly effective strategy. If I died tomorrow, I've had enough impact to change my world and a lot of people's worlds, like my country. But I'm like, there's probably time left for a bit more.
I love that. I love that. And you talk about prosperity as wholeness, right?
Yeah.
Not as wealth, because
an opportunity.
Correct. Absolutely. So how do you help women shift from chasing success into gaining holistic prosperity?
Wow. Well, how long do you have? One way. For me, entrepreneurship is a real freedom run. Yes. It's an absolute freedom run because entrepreneurship has been the thing that has changed my life. I help a charity called the Microloan Foundation in Malawi, where I grew up. I grew up in Sub-Saharan Africa. And we lend these women, we do microloans, $25 to $40. We lend them to set up a business. And then because they don't read or write a language, we teach them using song. So we put them into cohorts. And this is like my non-paid job, right? This is just for love and joy. And last year, we helped them grow a business. They pay back the loan because they're women. There's a 98% payback of the loan, of course. And then they come back and they borrow more money for a bigger thing. And so last year, we helped 39,880 women set up their own business just last year, not since the charity started.
Amazing.
But even better, let's talk prosperity. For every woman that you help, 4.2 kids are fed, clothed, housed, and educated.
That's
Right?
amazing. That's wonderful. That's
Oh, it's just
almost
the biggest
40,000 women in the course of a year. That's
in a year,
amazing.
right? It is life changing. And
Yes.
it's just the best thing in the world. I love it. It's the most fun. And so that's kind of like my charity work. And then on the non-charity work, the stuff that I get paid for, I teach women that their sense of that the universe doesn't do anything to them. That what happens is they create the universe from within them. And I think
Mm,
that that's the absolute definition of prosperity for me. That when you come from within, you are willing to give and do and be those things so that everybody can, the resonance of where you come from. And I mean, I have a very strong relationship with God, and that's not even the issue. It's just that the resonance that you come from then lifts everybody, because you lift the water and all the boats rise.
that's
Right?
right. That's
That's my
amazing.
general approach.
Yes. I did a talk not too long ago, and the theme of the talk was helping you rise above the limits.
Love that.
Okay. And so in order to talk about the rise, we have to acknowledge the fall.
Yeah.
And when the fall occurred, it made me realize, it made me activate something inside of me. Oh my gosh, I love what you just said. Something inside of me had to activate because I had to realize in that moment that I had to create my own security, my own safety, right? But the second thing I realized is that at some point in my life, I was also going to be responsible for helping others create their own safety and security. And so that goal that became that has now become the assignment. So to teach women about money, their mindset, how their relationship with money works, and how to build a sustainable future that they want, not just one that they exist in. So when I put out this call for prosperity conversations, I had no idea who would answer, but I did pray over it. And this has been an amazing journey because alignment is the word that keeps coming up. Prosperity and alignment, and showing others that it's not always about a dollar. It is about what we create for ourselves, and eventually, as like you said, as the pour the water, make all the boats rise for everybody else. So I absolutely love that. So, Geeta, right now, there could be someone, especially a woman, right, who's looking at this or listening to this interview, and she's stuck. She's overwhelmed and stuck and has no idea what her next step should be, whether to save herself, whether to increase where she is. What would you say to her to get her to move just to that next step?
I do this every day still today. I look at where I'm afraid. I look at my fear, and I only ever work on my fear. I don't work on anything else. I look at my fears and I look at what I'm scared of. I look at where that fear is come from, and I unpack it. I always call it's unpacking for me. And I imagine this huge box, which is the fear, and then I unpack. There's a big, smaller box. Then take away the big one. There's a smaller box. Then the smaller, and I know that it's terrifying. I know it is. I've been there. And so what I suggest that you do is you just look at what you're afraid of. Just sit there and go, I'm scared of this. And then I'm scared of this. And then I'm scared of this. And then I'm scared of this. And just keep doing it all the way down. So that's step 1A. And really release the fear. Just see them. Okay, if this happens, will I die? Right? And there's I have fled domestic violence, so I know the difference between having it as a statement and as a conversation. So I'm scared I'm going to look like an idiot. Will I die? No, do it. I'm scared I'll fail. Will you die? No, do it. Right? So I'm really unpack the fears. Is it a fear of you as a grown-up or a child? Next. But the second thing I do then, and I did this when the children and I were so homeless and poor and helpless, I have a book always. I have one here now. And it's got no lines in it. And I draw a line down the middle and I make 2 columns. And I say, okay, here's what I'm going to do tomorrow. And I write my to-do list on the left. And then on the right, I write, here's what the universe is going to do for me. So the things that I don't know how to do, I don't need to know how to do them. If I knew everything, I wouldn't be who I am. I'd be God, or I'd be whoever. So I'm like, there is somebody on my side, and I consciously go up to the universe because I'm like, you ain't doing anything better. Come here and help me because I need it. And I did that every single day. And I did it every day for, wow, years, decades. And now I don't do it. I think it, but it's because I've built up that connection strongly enough. But I would do those two things, because if you do those two things consistently and constantly enough, by the end of 7 days, the life that you are living will not be the life that you had at the beginning of the week.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's almost like you were in a conversation that I had with some just this morning. And she has a plan. I've given her a plan, but she's afraid to take the next step. And it's not that she doesn't have the structure. She's got a foundation. She's got a good structure. She needs guidance on what to layer on top of the structure. And I've told her, this is what you should do. This is how it should work. But you're not taking the first step, and why? And she gave me 72 excuses. I said, those are excuses. The real reason is some type of fear.
Yeah.
And I'm not your therapist. A lot of what we do is therapeutic, but I'm not the therapist. So this is what you have to work through in order to get beyond it, as because your success is on the other side of that.
I
And
agree.
you can't run from it, and you won't get to success. You got to work through it.
No, well done.
Alignment. I am so I had you guys go and check Geeta out. There's her Instagram. I got a little lost in those videos today. I love what she's doing. She's got some health and wellness for women. She was speaking my language with these menopause and perimenopause and all of those things. So anybody over the age of 35, you need to go over there and check it out, because it's a wealth of information. And I'll be going back myself, just so you know.
Most of the perimenopause stuff is on TikTok. So
Okay.
Instagram is fear, growth, and everything. Perimenopause, TikTok all the way.
I must have been back and forth because I was enthralled.
Oh, thank
So
you.
one final question before we wrap up today's session, and I absolutely love it. So what does it mean to choose prosperity instead of chasing it?
There's this guy I was listening to recently, Dan Sullivan, who the coach, strategic coach is his brand. He
Okay.
said that there's a difference between needing and wanting. He said
Absolutely.
when you need something, the desperation creates a gap between where you are and where the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas wanting something is a focus and an alignment. And I that's good. And then I would say that the third step is knowing it's yours becomes when it actually comes in, right? So I do think that there's a difference. There is that thing of not to be desperate, because I have to have, you don't really. I lived with 2 pairs of shoes and 6 items of clothing for a year and a half because we couldn't afford any more. Turns out you don't really need all that stuff, right? Because you don't need it. And it's only when you don't have it that you really clock that. But try and get to the place of not, I need, because need is always going to be fear-based. Want can have joy-based in it as well. And that's where you want to go to.
Oh, I love it, love it, love it. Geeta, thank you so very much for being with us today, to talk about prosperity, what it means to you, and how you help others actually find prosperity from within, because it definitely isn't from outside. As we always say, prosperity isn't something you chase, it's absolutely something that you choose. This has been another episode of Prosperity Conversations. I am the Nicole Johnson, and as always, till next time. Thanks, Geeta. Hello.